Okay, you need a hand? Okay, look at Chris. Not only is he a rock star, not only is he allegedly doing all sorts of things, he's also getting himself mic'd up. Let's give him a warm round of applause. And once again, I want to say thank you so much to Chris Roberts. You can find him on Twitter as SiDragon1. That's S-I Dragon and the number 1. Chris, can you talk to us?
Yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Good. Okay, so I'm going to have this shot here with you.
You have this shot here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here.
This is for you. This is for you.
No. Okay, this is cheers.
Thank you.
Excelente. All right, there is more of this afterwards.
L'chaim. We're going to have much more of all of this stuff afterwards at the bar. I'm also going to have the final iPads from Celebrite, and I have stickers. Actually, we don't have any T-shirts. We're going to have swag, and we're going to have stickers mostly. Okay, one more round of applause for this amazing gentleman.
No.
Okay. Thank you, Chris, for being a part of this.
All right, I got 10, 15 minutes. We got 54 slides. Hold on. All right. For any of you who have a resting powers, this is for you. Bunnies, unicorns, get the hell out of here. This is not today's topic, unfortunately. I would like to get back to the US later on in the next 24 hours, and I don't want to get stopped. However, I have one slide to talk about it. For those of you that have done the research, you'll realize that there are a little bit of problems. Physics says we can't fly planes sideways. For any of you that don't know what that is, look it up, Google me, you'll have some fun with it. Affidavit, the affidavit that was actually put out and leaked by the Department of Justice, put 5 years worth of research into about 2 to 3 paragraphs, and then got most of it wrong. Note to self, when talking to the FBI, hand them some data as opposed to try and talk to them about data. Nothing on the 2015 flights was done, and yeah, note to myself, no more Twitter on airplanes. I'm on El Al on the way back, so no more, my hands are under my ass. All right. How many of you guys were here the other day when I talked a couple of days ago? You'll see some of it. There's extra bits in here as well. For the rest of you, I apologize if you've seen it or yada, yada, yada. Okay, beauty of humans. For all that we are, we have an equal capacity or capability to evolve. We are the weakest link. It's as simple as that. We've kind of put it down here. We've talked about it. For those of you that do red teaming, the easiest and simplest way to break into a building is the squishy 200-pound of stuff that's sitting at the front door. Simple. Part of the reason why is this. When we actually have to tell people not to molest the crocodile, or don't tweet until you get out of the building, it's on fire and my ass is going to get burnt in the stairwell. We have a problem. We have a huge problem. So what do we do about it? What we decided to do about it was a couple of years ago, we did a whole bunch of research on agriculture. We decided to go back and do even more research on agriculture. Part of the logic is, and we'll get into it a little bit more, is we've stood on stage for 20 plus years having conversations, and arguably we have not improved the percentage of the situation. We're still losing shed ton loads of data. We're still getting herpes from our computers. And shit's not changed. So what do we do about it? As it says, the blunt statement, and this is really, we tend to use this when we're going in front of corporations, is, I should probably need a clip. Oh, fuck it, I'll use the paper. No, I don't, because it means plugging something into that and it'll rebel. It ain't happening. Sure. Yes, you. Oh, great, that's got to go back to the US. I've got to take into a corporate office with the government boys, and they're going to say, hey, did anybody touch it from Israel? No, not at all. All of us are targets. Quite simple. I think we tend to forget that one. And what the other problem is as well is when we realize we're actually targets, we here wake up. We're here at BSideds for crying out loud. But a lot of the mass population have absolutely no freaking clue. So the question is, what the hell is it going to take for them to wake up? Now, I will go back. We'll have some fun with this one. You guys recognize Wile E. Coyote, I assume? Yeah. Good. I am going to go back to the very first presentation that was actually put on this morning because as you might have noticed, my ugly mug was on the screen. We're going to have Mr. Isaac Newton for a second. Third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. I am going to argue that and say for every action, there is a varied reaction. All the way through from acceptance. When we turn around to a client or when we turn around to somebody that you have basically done or want to do responsible disclosure on or do research on, sometimes you get acceptance. Sometimes you get denial. Occasionally you get cooperation. When you get the cooperation, you want to hug them. Regularly, you get the, oh shit, we're on another damn list for the government. One of me. The challenge is, how do we actually control that equation? What can we do to help that equation? Now, take another step back. What is the playing field that we're messing with? Out of about 7.9 billion people that will be on the planet by about 2020, we're going to hand them 25 million apps. We already know that 24.9 million of those apps will not have any security on them. And they'll be readily run. It's going to be a mess, and it'll be fun. And we've got, what have we got? 25 billion embedded intelligent devices. I mean, that is a huge playing field. And the other challenge is with that huge playing field, we've taken the data that used to be just in the data center, then we gave it to the PCs, then we gave it to the laptops, then we gave it to the iPads and the phones, and then we gave it to our cars, now we're giving it to the fridges. Where the hell does it go from there? All of this data is around. We had the conversation earlier about the data embedded in us. So what we're trying to figure out is, how do we actually get people to pay attention? You've got to look at the audience that you have. We broke the audience down. I'm going to run through this real fast. By the way, this is being recorded, yes? Maybe. Yes, it is. You are recording it. There's evidence. Put evidence piece number 6 on it or something like that. The feds will come after it later on again. So take pictures, but I'm not going to go through it all. Quite simply, if you take a standard bell curve, there's 15% of people who get security, there's 70% of people who we will classify as sheeple, and there are the other 15% who are on LinkedIn, the top 20 passwords. Password 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those are the people we want to taser or tar and feather or both. When you take those statistics and you realize after all the numbers are put together that at most, when we talk to 100 people, only 8% are getting security, this really is how we feel. So, how do we get their attention? How do we get that other 92%'s attention? Standing up here and talking about 0 days and exploits isn't seeming to get it. So we decided to go after food. We went after food because there's tons of it to play with. Billion bushels of corn, 1.5 billion cows. It's awesome. We'll get into that in a minute. We messed with milk, hence the reason got milk. We messed with it for the same logical reason I've said. Number one, we have a Jesse. For those of you who haven't met him, he makes me look small. Nebraska boy, born, fed, and corn. Amazing guy. But we want to make a change. We want to pick something that everybody is going to pay attention to. We want to sit down and go, okay, what the hell is the 92% actually going to think about? So for that, we decided to hack milk. We decided to hack milk from England. For those of you that are following it, they're attempting to leave the EU, what, tomorrow? Today, tomorrow. Scotland tried to leave England last year. We failed, because there are too many fucking English people in Scotland. So in revenge, we're taking the milk out of their tea. This demonstrates how. Take the concept of research, and in this case, we focused on an organization called Fullwood and their suite of tools. We had to play with their tools, we had to play with their management. We did our research. Rather than going in there, charging at the front door, trying to kick it down with an IP scanner or anything else like that, we Googled them. We went on the forums. We went on all of the various GitHub, JetBrains, Oracle forums, Cisco forums, database forums, the whole bloody lot. We did our OSINT, we did our HUMINT, and then we did some SIGINT as well. We got a whole bunch of data. We did a ton of research on this, and we're suddenly going, ha-ha, we have all the information. Now, at this point in time, courtesy of the first point in the first call, we probably should have put our brakes on and gone, ha-ha, we're done with this. I'm not used to doing that. So we did this. And we ended up with this. Milk robots running on XP. This was awesome. So basically, all across here, you have computers that are counting cows. You have computers that are weighing cows. You have computers that are adding chemicals into the milk to get the pH balance right. Then you have computer systems that are hooked into the cows as well, giving them antibiotics. So at this point in time, I'm researching, I'm reviewing, but if I really want to get mean about it, I add more antibiotics in, I kill the cow, I add more stuff into the milk, I poison it. We also realized at the time that the livestock's connected. How many of you guys here used to do war driving, or do Bluetoothing? Old school. You can now do war driving on the cows. You can do cow driving. They've got embedded RFID tags. It's awesome. I was driving across Wyoming recently with a laptop and messing around. We managed to move this poor farmer's herd of cows. They're now sitting on a mesa somewhere in the middle of Idaho. So, it isn't going to end well. Do you know how long it takes to find a picture of a freaking polar bear doing this on Google?
You say you moved?
Oh, that was bad. That was bad. All right, what do we do about it? So, we've identified the issue. Per the other conversations here, responsible disclosure, the first port of call is to get hold of the organizations. Unfortunately, this is the message we want to send them. Step away from the freaking lawyers. Why? Because we want to cooperate. There should be balance in this. When we come to the organizations, we actually want to help them. Yes, we want to have some fun and games at their experience. Moving cows around the US is actually freaking hilarious. But at some point, you need to stop moving the damn cows. But the challenge is at this point in time, we end up dealing with the lawyers, we end up dealing with the legal system, we end up dealing with everybody that we don't want to deal with, and not dealing with the techies, the geeks, the manufacturers, the vendors, or the partners who naturally need to deal with this. The problem is, we're dealing with this womble. You guys finally read the sign. Yeah. Guess who he votes for? What the hell? I mean, seriously, what the hell are you guys thinking as you're watching the political situation in the US? I mean, I honestly can't imagine what the hell's going through your minds.
We're thinking, we're not the only ones.
I'm bugger this. I'm emigrating to New Zealand. So, take the same concept. Take the same concept when you red team a pen testing in your organizations, whatever. Take the same concept that we've actually used on milk. You can apply it to the Wheaties, the Cheerios, the food supply, the cornflakes, everything else. The controllers, the access point, the PLC stuff, the high-speed timestamps, all of the QA processing that is completely automated. It has flaws and vulnerabilities. There have been people stood up on stage talking about individual pieces of this. The farm animals, the battery farms that they have where they feed the million chickens, the PLC controllers in there that control the temperature of those chickens, that control the feed. You adjust it by 10 degrees, you slow the food down, now you have 1 million dead chickens. Not much use to Butterball. The crops, we did it a couple of years ago. We actually modified the assembler code on the John Deere tractors to such an extent where there's now a smiley face embedded in the assembler code. And it's global. Brazil, probably the largest crop manufacturer out there. And they're running around with tens of thousands of tractors with a freaking smiley face on it because John Deere doesn't want to fix the FTP server. Rinse it, repeat it. You do the same thing with the SCADAs, the pumps, the password, the water. You guys get the idea on this. Critical infrastructure is a playground. I'm not advocating, especially over here, that you go play in the critical infrastructure environment. The US tends to yell first, shoot late. Well, they don't always shoot later. Occasionally they shoot later. But take a look at this stuff. I mean, the transportation. We've had an amazing talk this morning about railway systems. I was sitting there giggling. Probably not a good sign. Rinse it, recap. Basically, at this point in time, with the longer talk and some other things that we've got going on, we can fairly easily demonstrate the fact that we can take the food off the table. It's a simple thing to do. It's not hard. It's the same techniques you use for SCADA PLC controllers. We remove your food. We've done it in a non-confrontational way. Haven't declared war, haven't had to confront anybody. We've basically taken everything away from you. So at this point in time, from a security standpoint, this is what we end up with. It is worthy of more than one facepalm. As a reminder, we haven't touched, arguably, any of your Internet of Things stuff. We haven't messed with any APTs, and we haven't played with any of the new shiny toys. Most of the gear that we're messing with here is laid in about 2 inches of dust. No shiny toys to play with. Lots of not so shiny toys to play with. These are fun, by the way. These are great. They're like Roombas. Do you guys have the Roombas? They're like Roombas for the farm. They're freaking hilarious. They actually go down, they feed the cows, and then they clean up all the mess as well. We've actually got the source code for these. We deployed it on a couple of them in Utah and Wyoming, I think it was. No, Idaho and Wyoming. And every 6 hours, it stops doing its job, and it line dances for 30 seconds, and then goes back to the same place. Arguably, that crossed over the green is nice, red, oh shit, what are you doing line, but it was so worth doing it. So, to some degree, it's arguable we've dealt with the 92%. We actually have got their attention. We've taken the food off the table, the robots are doing line dancing, and they have no food. We now have to deal with the 8%. Those that, in theory, we talk with and deal with on a daily basis. The big challenges we have here, for the most part, the CEOs and the CFOs don't care unless they've already been breached, at which point it's like, we've got problems. Shit, Sherlock. The accountants really don't care. The lawyers, they get paid either way. Who cares? I pay you, you pay me, we're fine. The doctors, I will argue for the most part, they're either narcissistic enough that they don't care because the world does revolve around them, or they will turn around and say, we're saving the patient's life. That's fine, you've saved their life, you've lost their data, which means you've screwed them up for the next 3 to 5 years. Well done, congratulations. The officials, way too much red tape, at least in the US it is. The bankers, how many auditors do we have in here that want to admit to it at this point in time? Yeah, auditors, assessors, Ernst & Young and all that shenanigans. I actually feel sorry for them. In the US, when you get we're getting the annual PCI audit. They get put in a little room and they get fed as much shit as they possibly can until they sign the piece of paper, at which point they get let out of the room and they can go home. It's as simple as that, and it sucks. So this is what we end up with. Taking a drink, will you do this? All right, what do we do about it? We have a couple, are we okay? Am I good? All right, okay. All right, we have a couple of options. Option number one, very quickly. It might be an interesting scenario for the next time somebody actually breaks into an environment, good or bad, rather than just breaking in and stealing everything, break in, fix all the shit, leave all the passwords and codes behind where somebody can find them, then get the hell out of there. From a legal standpoint, prosecuting that could be interesting. I don't want to be the test case. Should we do that? Arguments could be said to yes, because basically a secure system isn't going to leak data, the encrypted system isn't going to leak data, data arrest, data emotion encrypted isn't going to leak data, my stuff stays secure, as opposed to me having to deal with a corporation that won't bother dealing with it. Problem is, we're not always dealing with logic. Remember the Wile E. Coyote? That's what we end up with. So there is an argument, and I will use the word an argument, to say from here on out, when you do your research, don't just stand up here and say what's wrong. Give some options as to how to fix it. And the argument is when you figured out how to fix it, including a deployment methodology, there is an argument in some circumstances that you can deploy it. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Reason why. Ongoing example. I'll run through this quickly. Taking on Keren's stuff and various other people who have done a frickin' amazing job, we took the concept of a virus and we turned it into a vaccine. We took the best parts of some of the best viruses out there, the best parts of some of the obfuscation techniques, and the best part of some of the deployment techniques. And we went, the stuff sucks over here, and we can make a difference over here. So we built a really nice tool. And we built it so that any computer can potentially be vaccinated. There were some amazing talks up here talking about that. I'm not going to go into it because we haven't got time. But basically, we deployed it. We deployed it in Africa. It's currently protecting, I actually went on it last night, we're protecting now 1.3 something odd million computers. These computers can't be infected by other viruses, they can't be used to have their data stolen, they sure as hell can't be used as a botnet, and they can't be used as part of a denial of service system. We did it, nobody was asked. Freely admit that one. No harm was done, nothing was taken, nothing was stolen. And yes, a few rules might have been broken and burned. At this point in time, there are people going, oh shit, a couple of people here. There's no evil overlord. There's no desire to take over the world. It's a pain in the ass, and I can't deal with my own life, let alone taking over the freaking world. And really, I don't want to take over any other computers, apart from the ones that need it. There is simply a desire to see progress and change. Notably, we would call it altruistic hacking. It's basically, in certain circumstances, given certain criteria, there's an argument to say it's worthwhile doing. There are a lot of embedded systems. There's a lot of stuff being put out these days. There's 25 million apps coming out, of which most of them aren't secure. I'm happy to debate this. I've spent the last 2 days debating this over drinks. I'm looking forward to debating it tonight over drinks. However, in closing, like anything, there are actions and there are consequences. I can't fly 4 different airlines because of the consequences of some of my actions, despite the fact that we spent 3 years trying to convince the industry. Eventually, I said, fuck it, and we went public. Right or wrong thing to do, you make your own decision. But whichever path you choose, accept beforehand that there are consequences and actions. I would argue that collaboration and cooperation should always, always, always be the first point you go to. No arguments, no discussions on that one. But remember, as well, this community we have, not just here in Israel, but everywhere else, is freaking amazing. You look at the people in this front row that put this on, you owe them a huge thanks, as well as everybody else that's doing this. And yes. You take this and you replicate this in the US, in the UK, in Europe, and everywhere. We have one hell of a fucking community. Use it and leverage it. When you find the CEO that doesn't want to listen to you, you've got a couple of options. You can extort them, you can talk, you can have some fun with them, or you can reach out to the community and say, hey, how the hell do I deal with this stubborn son of a bitch? So, I will say in final, in fact, I managed to do it in 15-ish minutes, didn't I? Holy shit. All right. In thanks, obviously thanks to the BSideds Tel Aviv and the ICRC and everybody else for dragging my sorry ass over here. One hell of a community. To EFF, obviously for putting up with me for the 3rd or 4th time for bailing my sorry ass out. To Eddie Mize, for those of you who know him for everything. Chuck Jones, Hackers for Charity, EFF. And final slide. Douglas Adams.
You need a moment for air? You need a moment to take some air?
I did it.
Okay, you can have some water too.
I'm having some more water.
So this is the final talk, but please, let's spend 60 more seconds to thank the team that made this all happen. Yeah. And I'd like to invite all of the red shirts, please, red shirts to the stage, please.
Get off the stage.
And one more thing, before you guys leave, I said it at the beginning, and it was mentioned a couple more times. We taught you some stuff here, we showed you some stuff here. You have to be careful, because even if you want to make the world a better place, there is a right way to do it, and there is a wrong way to do it. You could cause real damage if you don't do it well, and you can cause trouble for everybody else who's trying to do it. So please, 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 think before you act, consult if you have to, but do it in the correct way so everybody can win. Thank you.
Uh-oh. You're all going to be on the no-fly list after this. You know that.
Thank you, everybody. Next year, if you want to be a speaker, I encourage you to, first of all, thank our sponsors too, Akamai and Celebrate. You'll be seeing more of them soon. But this is your BSides friendly team. Talk to me personally if you want to be involved with our next year. I'm always hiring volunteers. The weather is guaranteed to be sunny or your money back. See you next year at BSides Tel Aviv. Thank you, and let's party!